Back to the 5.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to those 5 characteristics of samatha, because the way it's described in the Indo-Tibetan tradition is that it's a little more detailed, this process. Like we just referred to PT, but they say first there's a development of mental pliancy, and that's where you've achieved stability of attention and some control over the scope of your awareness. What many people might describe as reaching the point where they can maintain a single-pointed focus. Right? They're focused on one thing and almost to the exclusion of everything else. So that's called mental pliancy. It's followed by physical pliancy, and that's where the body not only becomes very still and pliant in terms of thinking. I don't know what I said. In terms of sitting, you sit there completely still and comfortable for a long period of time. That's physical pliancy. Mm-hmm. But the other aspect of physical pliancy is your senses undergo a transformation. And so this is where you may experience light, you might experience the sound of silence, as some people call it, ringing, buzzing, humming, whatever. And you become much less aware of external sounds. Mm-hmm. That happens. The body becomes very still and comfortable. Mm-hmm. And so all of this together is physical pliancy, but it's also part of the development of PT. In the Indo-Tibetan tradition, the joy aspect is referred to as the bliss of physical pliancy and the bliss of mental pliancy. And these come afterwards. So when your body feels really good, pleasure, like sometimes you'll have the feeling there's all this energy in your body and it just rises up to your head and it's just like this shower of delicious sensation over your body.
Actually smelling it.
So that's the bliss of physical pliancy. And that's followed then by this joyful state of mind, this exuberant, happy, and that's called rapture. We described it earlier, but it is called the bliss of mental pliancy. So you've achieved this unification of mind that's allowed you to enter into this joyful state. And that energy is very strong. It can be distracting. A person enters into that in meditation. They sit there reveling in it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then they interrupt their meditation because they have to go tell somebody about it.
I just had this really, that's very good.
What the 9th stage is about is getting used to this. And so in the Indo-Tibetan tradition, it is said that there is a subsidence of the intensity of physical pliancy and mental pliancy. Uh-huh. You get used to it and it goes into the background. And that's when the tranquility and the equanimity arise.
Yes, and it's also less, I'm going to say attachment to it, but if you want to go tell someone to it, there's I got this great, So it's more like, oh yeah, that again, I got that, that's good.
That's right.
That's good, that's one of the things going on.
Yeah.
Right.
And of course, and this is where the mastery comes in too, is that the first time this happens, you want this so much, and you go back and you try to make it happen, and you can't. Right. But if you create the right causes and conditions like you did before, then it will happen again. Right. And so, and you learn to do that. You learn not to chase after it, but rather to create the causes and conditions and let it arise on its own. Right. And mastery is when you can do that consistently. Right. When you can do that consistently, then you can really begin the process of getting used to it. And it will subside in intensity. But that subsidence in the intensity of the PT is absolutely necessary for the tranquility and the equanimity.
Right, otherwise you're getting a buzz the whole time.
That's right.
Yeah, right.
The other thing I wanted to say about these 5 is that in the Buddha's teaching, he speaks of 7 factors of enlightenment. These are 5 of those 7. The 2 that are not included are investigation and a word that translates as diligence or enthusiasm. So when you've got concentration, mindful awareness, a state of joy, tranquility and equanimity, all you need to do is to begin investigating experience, investigating reality, and doing this with enthusiasm and diligence. And at that point, all 7 factors of enlightenment are present. So that's a very powerful place
Cool.
to practice Vipassana. Yeah.